Today's lesson is about the ledger lines below the bass clef staff. If you joined me for the last lessons, you already learned what a musical staff is. I know you know 5 lines and 4 spaces. You know how to draw a treble clef and a bass clef. You know to create the grand staff, we join the two staffs together by a what? A brace. And in order for notes to have meaning, you must place notes on a staff with a clef. And we follow the first 7 letters of the alphabet. You will know how to name the notes of the treble clef staff and how to name the notes of the bass clef staff. You've learned about ledger lines above and below the treble clef staff. And last week, you learned about ledger lines above the bass clef staff. So you betcha, today we're going to learn about the ledger lines below the bass clef staff. And as always, we're going to take it one step at a time. You already know that notes live on the staff, either on a line or a space, like this. Here we have this first note on the first line. But music doesn't stop there, right? We already know that this is the lowest note that we've worked on in the bass clef, okay? But music doesn't stop there. Notes go lower than the bass clef staff. And as you already know from the previous lessons, we add small extra lines called ledger lines, right? Ledger lines are those short little lines we draw to help us read notes that go lower than the staff, lower than this first line here. Ledger lines are not as long as the 5 lines and 4 spaces that we call a musical staff. They're short and they only appear where the note is. Let's learn some more. All right, so let's begin with the lowest note that you know so far. Okay, and what is the letter name of this note on the first line in the bass clef? Right. Good. This is note G. So I'm going to put note G here and hopefully you can see that clearly. Okay. And because you already learned the line notes and the space notes of the bass clef, right, which was lesson number 3, you can tell me all of the notes leading up and you know your musical alphabet. So let's just quickly do that. So this is note G. This note would be note A. You remember this note would be good, B. Okay, and this note would be C, good, and keep going. This note would be D. This note would be E, and the 4th line, always a hint where the 2 dots are splitting the 4th line. And if you know the second name of the bass clef, we call what? The F clef. You will know that this is the F note. And this note we call G, good. And this note we call A. And of course, we even learned our ledger lines above the bass clef staff, and we can review in another lesson, but we want to get below the bass clef staff. All right, so let's continue. As we start to go lower, let me just remind you, every time we go below or above the staff, whether treble clef or bass clef, it's important that you understand the pattern, right? And I tend to say this quite a bit, but it bears repeating. Since G is on a line note, or is on a line, and it is a line note, and we know that we follow that pattern, a line note, and then a space note, which is note A, and then a line note, which is note B, and a space note, which is note C, etc. That pattern stays the same. We continue to alternate from a line to a space to a line to a space. as well as, yes, that is correct, the musical alphabet. Notice that we're here on G, and there is no note H, right? In our culture, Western music, there is no H. So we move to musical letter name A, okay? And then we move to B, C, D, E, F, G, A, and it continues and continues. So let's now go down below the staff. So if this is a line note and we're going down, we're actually going to the left, what would the note be? Would it be a line note or a space note? That is correct. It would have to be a space note. And if this is note G, what letter comes before note G? Absolutely, note F. And we'll continue to go even lower. Okay, so if this is a space note, now what do we need? We need a line note. And this is where our ledger lines come in. We have this short little line that is extending the bass clef staff below. So I put my ledger line there, and now I'm going to add my note head. Okay, I'll make this a little bit longer. And you should know, what would the letter name be of this note if the next note is F? What is the letter before it? Good, that would be E. And let's continue to go even lower. Hopefully you can see this. Okay, so if note E is a line note, what would be the note before it? Would it be a space note or a line note? Good job. It would be a space note. And of course, I had my ledger line here, so I'm going to continue adding my ledger line. And let me make it a little longer, but it's a short little line. And then I'm going to add my note head, which is a space note. And we said that is note D. Okay. And I don't know if you can see this, but we're going to make it work. Okay. All right. Now, let's continue to get lower, get low, low, low. All right. So if we have note D as a space note, what would be the note before that? Would it be a line note or a space note? Good. It would be a line note. And so I'm going to continue adding that ledger line, that short extra line to extend the bass clef below. And now, in order for me to make this a line note, I have to add another ledger line and then add my note head. And this would be note C. I'm going to put note C right here since I'm falling out of my camera range, okay? And we're going to stop right there. But of course, we can continue going even lower, okay? We follow that same pattern. Nice work. So now you can see the pattern. Even below the bass clef staff, nothing changes, right? We still see the musical alphabet, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, and then we can continue with that musical alphabet all the way up to ledger lines above the bass clef staff like we talked about in last week's lesson. So we're still moving step by step, right? We're still moving step by step. We still alternate line, space, line, space. Ledger lines simply give us a place to write lower notes, as you can see here. So nice job today. So there you have it. In this lesson, you learned that notes don't stop at the bottom of the bass clef staff, that first line, right here. It doesn't stop right here. No, we go even lower. Notes go below the staff when we use what we call a what? A ledger line. Yes, ledger lines are short, extra lines that help us read lower notes. And you can name those notes by continuing the musical alphabet downward, as well as that pattern, line, space, line, space. There you go. Excellent job. All right. Excellent, 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 excellent work. Yes, I am so proud of your progress. Now, if you feel confident with everything in this lesson, you already know you can download the free worksheets workbook at our school store. Yes. Okay. Here's the information. Inside, you'll find guided practice pages that go along with today's video lesson. So please use these resources. And if you want a real challenge, you know you can download the quiz along with the video answer key to check your answers. So as I give you these worksheets and quizzes to take, I also record myself with the answers, explaining how you come up with the answer. So I don't try to just send you with a worksheet and say, good luck. I also provide a video answer key. So that is all there at the school store. So take advantage of these resources, and I'll see you in the next lesson.